Hello and welcome back to another episode of Know Your Town. My name is Andrew Whitcomb, and this episode is the start of what I hope will be a new season. It's been a couple of years since I've done one of these. On this show, we like to talk about the different town departments, elected officials in Saugus, organizations, and the idea is the public gets a better understanding of the town. Joining me today is a very, very dear friend, a former boss of mine, one of the most passionate elected officials and public servants I have ever worked with, the Register of Deeds for Essex South.
Correct.
The legendary, honorable, amazing former Massachusetts Governor's Counselor, Eileen Duff. Eileen, hi. How are you?
Hello, Andrew. That's a lot to live up to.
Well,
all those
which part did I get wrong there?
Well, I'm flattered by all of it, but as cliche as it sounds, and I say this to folks a lot, I really truly believe in public service, and I like serving.
We were on the campaign trail together. I helped Eileen run for Registry of Deeds.
You
I
did.
was your
You were an
your
invaluable intern on that race.
We would ride around to different events, and I was always surprised at just how much you had to say about, we drive past protests, or we do, people are standing in the rain all the time. You'd give me a 5-minute rundown on why they were doing it and why it was important, and you wanted to get the message out as best you can, not because of your own self-interest for the campaign. Well, I'm sure that was a little bit of it, but it was really about what the position would mean for the area. What kind of a job you could do for the public, and I always found that really admirable.
Thank you.
I guess I want to start by rolling the clock back a little bit. So when did you first start getting involved in public service? Because you've held a few different positions.
I have, but the real answer to that is I grew up in a family where public service was revered.
I think I know this. Your mother worked for Bobby Kennedy or worked for...
No, my mother worked for Richard Nixon.
Worked for Nixon.
But Jack Kennedy liked her very much.
Okay.
Her office was right across the hall from his.
That's right.
And they became very good friends, and they would fly back and forth to Washington a lot, and he really wanted her, because she was from Massachusetts, to work for him.
Yep.
And so my mother was a strong Republican.
Yeah.
But the Republicans of past.
Right.
And my father was, a young Democrat, had just been elected to school committee when my parents were dating, and a member of the Democratic State Committee. And so they both really believed in public service. And even though they were on opposite sides of the aisle, I actually think it's one of the things that they really loved and respected about each other. I never remember them fighting about politics. But we were expected to come to the dinner table able to discuss what was happening.
Without trying to kill each other.
No, there was no killing each other. My father wouldn't put up with that. But if you didn't know something, you would be sent to read the paper and come back. It was the same as a vocabulary word. If you didn't know the word, you'd have to leave the table, go to the dictionary, look it up, and come back and tell everybody. And it wasn't a form of punishment. Someone said to me, that sounds awfully harsh. And I said, it was a form of education. And so you really wanted to be your best. And as my father, he was involved in local politics in Peabody City Council, different things like that. And but he was always active on the state level as just an activist.
Right.
And he would take my older sister with him to a lot of events, and I just wanted to be like her.
Right.
And that was actually one of the things that triggered my interest in politics. Is I would see, she was 3 years when you're a little kid makes a big difference.
Well, I had a similar story, which is my cousin, who we will probably have on the show at some point, was going to run for selectman.
Yeah.
My grandmother, there was a family meeting. There was an APB. Mm-hmm. He's running. We're all good. You're going to hold a sign.
Yeah.
There was no question. We were voluntold. Mm-hmm. So that was it. I remember his wife owned a minivan. So I'm a quadruplet. We would climb into the car with the doors open and pick a neighborhood, a cul-de-sac or something, and ride around like little mailmen. You jump out and run a thing back to the car. And I'll never forget that summer. Of course, he won, and it worked out very well for him. He now serves as the town manager of Saugus.
That's great.
And I assume I assume we'll try and get him on the show at some point. But I mean, so you were on the Democratic State Committee, and we try to keep this sort of party neutral, but it's about involvement. It's about getting
I was involved
the message out.
And I probably never told you this. I got very involved in actually city politics when I was in high school.
Which city would this have been?
Peabody.
Peabody.
Because I was an athlete, and Title IX had just been enacted.
Yep.
And I was also a student representative to the school committee.
Yep.
We were one of the first groups that ever had that. I was actually also a student representative to the state school committee. I forget some of this, but I was very involved.
There's so many folks.
But the city stuff I remember well because it was very pivotal. And I like numbers. I study the numbers.
Right.
I study the math a lot, because I tell you, the numbers don't lie. And I was able to get a hold of the budgets. There was a person on the school committee who was like my deep throat. She would leak, even though these were public documents,
Right.
no one had access to
Right.
these things. She would give me the athletic budgets, and I would dissect them. And I
At the age of 17.
I was younger than that. I was in college at 17. I started very young. I think my mother wanted me out of the house, so I started school young. But I was probably 15 or 16, and we challenged the city on Title IX, and they capitulated.
Wow.
I mean, this was a very long, protracted battle. Part of it ended up in court. I wasn't part of that court case, but all the research and everything I did was back up for the coach that actually did end up in court with them, and we won. Because I was able to quantify the information. What was interesting about it, Andrew, was the parents of these female athletes, particularly the dads who had been athletes themselves, they started getting involved.
Right.
Because they knew how disproportionate it was.
Right.
We were state champions and we didn't have uniforms.
Somehow I feel like I knew that already.
But it was also happening to some of the boys' sports that weren't considered, they weren't the glamour sports of hockey and football and things like that. Our boys' track teams were amazing. We had amazing athletes. Some of them still hold records. And these boys didn't have, they had more than the girls had, but they weren't getting the equitable amount. And so they started getting interested. So it was very interesting because it built momentum. We were able to build momentum across a variety of people that no one ever expected. So when I see kids, I'll tell you, one of my proudest moments in my life is when I see the athletes at Peabody High School, the girls, that they have uniforms on, I know I did that.
Right. And when I was on the Board of Higher Education, I still get chills about that kind of stuff. It's like, the Fair Share Amendment. I don't know if it was the governor's office or somebody came to the board and said, listen, we've got X amount of money, come up with a plan and figure out how we're going to spend it. Well, now any kid whose family makes less than $70,000 a year can go to a UMass or a state school for free. I was there.
Yeah, it's huge.
It still doesn't fit. So the chairman asked me how I felt. Chris Gabrielli, another resident of Beverly.
Yep.
And I said, I wish we'd come up with it 5 years ago.
Yeah. You wouldn't have the debt, right?
But this is why I want to have you on the show, both because you represent Saugus through the registry.
Of course, I love it.
But you're the first guest on this show that isn't a Saugus native. We keep it to local politics, but I'd like to help residents. How do I phrase this? I don't like to see the wrong town department blamed for something.
Right.
Right, and the amount of phone calls that the town manager's office gets that have nothing to do with them, but they're not going to tell somebody off. They want to help. Yeah. Hundreds of emails a week that aren't really meant for that office. So I figure I'll ask the questions myself. And that's why I started this show. I mean, so let's pivot. You were on the Governor's Council.
I was on the Governor's Council.
12 years? Something like that.
12 years, yeah, it was. I had to remember, was it 12 or 14? And so this actually ties back to my mom. When I was in high school, I I did my academics pretty quickly. Let me
Yes.
just say that.
I imagine.
So I was really, I hate to say it, but I was a bit bored. It wasn't like I was the straight A student or anything, but I was a bit bored in school.
It wasn't stimulating.
It was stimulating, but I wanted more.
Right.
I wanted more. And so I was able, with a few other students at Peabody High School, to get an internship up at the State House on Wednesdays. We would give tours.
Yep. Okay.
And so I can
Been there.
I can give you a great tour of the State House sometime. But and so we would take our, because Peabody, you start school at 7:20 in the morning. So we'd take our first couple of classes. Either someone's dad would drop us off at the Revere train. You
go to Wonderland.
Yeah, we'd get into Boston. We'd take a train. We'd get into Boston, and we would do our little stint. And we thought we were the coolest things.
Yeah.
But when you didn't have any tours to go on, we were like, well, we're in the State House. Let's just check it out. The Governor's Council meets on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right.
We used to go to Governor's Council meetings sometimes.
And sit in the back.
Sit and just watch them. And they didn't care. And sometimes we'd go to other legislative sessions. And, I remember seeing legislators who, went on to become famous in other times and stuff. But so I knew the Governor's Council through that. My mom, so before she worked for Nixon, she was a secretary. She was the daughter of an immigrant.
Yep.
Given very few options from her dad, what she could be because she was a girl. And secretary was one of them, so she went to secretarial school. She did very well. She was very, very smart. And when she graduated, she applied to law firms. And she said back then, Eileen, what they did is all the new attorneys coming in and all the new secretaries, they just matched them up. The attorneys didn't get to pick who they wanted to work with. It was just like, okay, you go to this one, you go to this one. So the guy that she got assigned to was a man named Chris Herter. And he became a governor's counselor. Then he became a state rep. She went to his father was the governor. His father was Christopher Herter Sr.
That worked out.
It's a little complicated, but yeah. So when Eisenhower won the presidency, Chris Herter Jr., her boss, was basically Nixon's chief of staff. So he took my mom to Washington with him. His dad, the governor, eventually became Secretary of State under Eisenhower. So that's when I say the circle my mother ran.
I know.
She ran in a much higher level circle than my dad was. And her stories...
So you've been around this your whole life.
So I actually knew what the Governor's Council was.
Right. You decide you're going to run.
Well, I had been living away. I moved back here after my dad died. My family needed help. I wasn't married. I was somebody that could come home. So I came home to help my mom. I had a younger sister with Down syndrome. Yep. I had a grandmother
She's lovely.
Who was well into her 90s. And, here's my mom juggling all these balls. So I came to help Mama, which not a great financial decision for me, but a fabulous personal decision because you can't quantify your family. Your family is everything.
Right.
So, here I was, I ran my mouth and I was walking the talk. And I decided to get involved in my community. If I was, going to be here, I was going to get involved. So I started doing volunteer work, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted to run for office. I mean, I'd always had the bug to run. But I had to build my credentials. I had to build people, even though I'd lived here my whole life. I'd been away for 20 years. I had to let people know who I was.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I just became very involved in my community in different, I'm a Democrat. I was involved in various Democratic events, although I've always had very good friends on the other side of the aisle.
Same here, same with me.
And so anyway, so when the Governor's Council seat opened, I was very interested in it. My background is public policy. I worked for an FCC commissioner in Washington, and I was a presidential appointment. I was appointed by President Clinton, but my appointment was to a Republican commissioner. A lot of people don't understand how that works. So I was used to being on both sides. But like you said, policy issues really should not be partisan. They should be about what's best for the country or what's best for the public.
We talked about it a little before the show started, but a Supreme Court justice can have a personal opinion, but listen, the letter
The
of the
personal
the
opinion
letter of
doesn't
the law
belong in there.
doesn't agree with it,
We need
you
to
know?
do what the law says, and we need to do what's best for the public. We have to leave our personal stuff out. So I'd had experience
Right.
already doing it. Anyway, Governor's Council opened. I talked to my family, to my sisters and my mom, and said, what do you think? In particularly my younger sister, who is an attorney. And I said to her, what do you think? Do you think I can do it? And she was like, absolutely, you can do it. And then I said to my mom, Mama, what do you think? And to this day, there was it really touches me. My mother looked at me, she said, I've always wondered what took you so long to run. And so we ran a good hard race. I was very nervous, I was very scared. But I figured I had nothing to lose. You know, I didn't want to go through life wondering what if.
Right.
And so I ran, I won. It was a very contentious primary because it was an open seat. And then I won my general election and ended up on the Governor's Council with a whole new group of people.
So you get to the Governor's Council. What does the Governor's Council do? I mean, you worked, let me see, you worked for Deval Patrick. I should say you served under him?
Yes.
Over? I don't know
I like
quite.
to say the governors work for us.
Right.
But yeah, I served with Governor Patrick, with Governor Baker the longest,
Yep.
and then with Governor Healy.
So what does the Governor's Council do?
So we are a group of 8 who are constitutional officers,
Yes.
which most people don't know, which
Right.
means we're in line of succession to be
Are you?
governor.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know
Well,
that? Yeah,
that's
we're
really
in line
cool.
of succession. I used to joke if 8 people drop dead
If
or
8
9
people
people,
drop dead,
I'll
you're
be the
in,
governor. It's never going to happen. It actually works a little differently than that, but it's never going to happen. But
What's the day-to-day like? You guys meet on Wednesdays, but what are you doing in those meetings?
So, well, there's more than just the Wednesday meetings.
Yep.
So we meet with the lieutenant governor. There's 8 of us, so we each have an eighth of the state,
Yep.
which is bigger than a congressional district. So it's a big district.
You're a big deal.
Well, the governor's counselors are actually a very, very big deal. I represented, at that time, most of Essex County and part of Middlesex. I mean, I went from Cape Ann to the New Hampshire border all the way west to Pepperell. So it was, some of the towns I represented were 2 hours away from where I lived.
Right.
So it was, but I also, Andrew, really believed that I needed, I wasn't out there every weekend in these
Right.
towns, but I would make sure several times a year I was in every single town, either at a public festival or an event
Right.
or a meeting or something for the citizens, because I believe if you're an elected official and you want people to vote for you, you better show up.
Right.
I don't want to be the elected official who just shows up when it's time to run for re-election. I want people to know who I am.
Absolutely.
I want to educate them about the council. I want them to ask me questions. I want them to come to the governor's council meetings, which people didn't know they could do.
I didn't know I could do until you pulled me into the room.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But going back to your question, I get Anna.
What are the responsibilities of the Governor's
The
Council?
main responsibility, we have several. We vote on all the notary publics and justices of the peace.
Yep.
We approve all the treasury warrants. That's how everybody in the state, including the firefighters and the police, get paid.
Okay.
So if you don't approve those warrants, which have been screened a million times from the comptroller and everybody else before
Right.
they even get to us, that literally is probably the only thing, to be honest, that's a little bit of a rubber stamp.
Right.
Because if you said no,
You'd be up the creek.
we'd be in
Yeah,
really
right.
serious trouble. There'd be no troopers on the streets.
Right.
Some of the firemen wouldn't be getting paid. It's very serious. People think it's a joke. It's not. It's very serious. But the main task is the appointment of clerk magistrates and judges.
Yes.
And so
To the Massachusetts Superior Court
to all the courts.
and to the Supreme
district
Judicial Court.
To the district courts, the appeals courts, the land court, the juvenile court, the appeals court,
So how do you
all of them.
How do you break one of those down? You get nomination in front of you. Are you having coffee with these people and
So
saying,
this is
"Listen,
how
what
it
kind of
works.
judge are you going to be?"
The governor nominates them.
Yep.
Okay. We are the only body with complete veto power over the governor. Nobody
Yes.
else has that. If we say no, it's no. Now, there's 8 of us, so it's an even number. if the lieutenant governor chairs the meetings.
Yes.
The only time the lieutenant governor, and there's case law on this, is allowed to vote is if there is a tie and the governor is in the building. The governor has to come into the chambers, say this little spiel, leave the chamber, and then the lieutenant governor can call a vote and can vote.
Relinquish authority. It's
really interesting to see it happen. It happened with Baker more than anyone else. I never saw it with Healy. And Patrick, we had no lieutenant governor for half the time I was there, so I don't ever remember it happening with him. He actually sat with us. The governor actually oversaw the meetings. And so for me, that was a great opportunity because I was able to develop a very close working relationship with Governor Patrick, which was very different than my relationships. Everyone is different, but that was a very unusual circumstance that I feel like I was given and I was gifted. So you asked how the nuts and bolts of it all works. So the governor will make the nomination. There's all these panels these people have been screened through. I'm not going to go into that before, but there's like 3 or 4 panels they've already been screened. The governor gets a short list. The legal staff interviews them. The governor interviews them. They make a nomination. It comes to us. Then we do our due diligence and we interview them. It could be coffee with them. If it's somebody in my district, I would often have dinner or lunch with them. If it's somebody who's far away, I may just do a phone call or a Zoom with them. But we would interview everyone before we'd even get into chamber for the public.
That sounds like
there's so much work that's
thorough work. I mean, I wish we could talk about it. I want to pivot now.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the time.
I want to pivot now to Registry of Deeds. You were sworn in. January 1st.
January 1st.
I was there. You invited me to the swearing-in ceremony with Secretary of State Galvin. So, I didn't. I'll be honest with you, and I feel bad saying this too. I didn't know we had a Registry of Deeds.
People don't know.
I didn't know what that
these offices, nobody knows what they are.
But you're
it's my job to educate you.
So what is the Registry of Deeds? It's called the Essex South Registry of Deeds, even though it's most of Essex County anyway.
I represent 30 cities and towns, all in Essex County. I do not represent Methuen, Lawrence, North Andover, or Andover. Those have their own registry. I don't know the rhyme or reason how these things are carved up, but that's how it works. We had always been, and we're online as salemdeeds.com if anybody needs to look up their deed. We are the repository, the library, to say, of all the real estate records of transactions in that county, in those cities and towns. So your deed, when you buy a home or a piece of property of any kind, it lives there.
Yes. Kind of like a probate court, almost like a probate will.
It's a big library. That's what I tell people.
Yes.
And everything is online. Everything is public record. Your mortgage is there. There are actually if something is in probate, a death certificate could be there with certain information redacted.
If they own the property.
Yes, and if it has to go to probate, then information could be there. You can do property searches. My family were immigrants from Italy, and so when I was researching my family, I did a search back to see where they had originally lived when they came to this country. And through that historical research I did, I was able to learn that my great-grandmother bought the property. At the time, you did not need to be a U.S. citizen. You just needed to be able to buy it.
Interesting.
She bought the property, and she was illiterate in Italian and in English. And the only reason I know that, she had been a field worker. She would work, she literally worked in the fields. And I know that because all the documents she signed, her name was printed and she signed with an X, which means she couldn't write in Italian either. Because if she could write in Italian, she would have written her name in Italian. So for me, that was like a whole part of my world I didn't know. So it was pretty interesting to find that out. And it takes a little research, but it's fascinating to do.
So what are you doing day to day? Are you handling cases? Are you getting calls about fraud?
Fraud all the time. And that's a great question. property fraud is on the uptake.
So what would you tell the people of Saugus that are watching this? What
I would tell the people of Saugus several things. One, your deed is free. You don't have to ever pay for a copy of your deed. You will get letters in the mail that say, if you want a copy of your deed, send us money and we'll send it to you. You can go online and download it for free. We will sometime in the next year, hopefully in the summer, come to the Council on Aging.
Yep.
and do
I can get you connected
a
to the
whole
senior
thing
center if you
on
like.
this. We will provide any citizen, we call them the mom and pops, anyone that walks in or calls us, we will give you a copy of your deed for free.
They don't need to pay for it.
You do not, I will not let regular citizens pay for it. Now, if you're a bank or you're a big lawyer, that's a different story. But if you're a mom and pop, this is yours, we'll give it to you for free. So don't fall for that.
Yep.
Don't fall for these letters. If you get some letter that says there's a lien on your property and you have to pay the federal tax authority, that's bogus. In America, it's the IRS. It's not the federal tax authority.
Right.
If you get that letter, call us. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell you what the main number is. I think it's
That's all right.
978-542-1700, but I'm not sure.
At the end of the episode, we'll pop it in.
But don't fall for that. If there is a lien on your property, we have a record of it and we can look it up and we can tell you what it is and we can
Right.
tell you if it's been paid. But they prey on seniors doing this.
Right.
Now the thing with the property fraud is they prey on seniors, anyone that owns an investment property, whether they're a landlord and they're renting out a multifamily, whether they own a vacant lot, whether they own a commercial property, particularly if it's vacant, because so many are right now. If they own a property that they Airbnb a VRBO, you're essentially putting on the internet, I have an empty piece of property.
Right.
There are bad actors out there, and a lot of them are in the United States. We are not encountering, the Nigerian prince things on this right now. We're encountering people right here in the U.S. that are doing this. They are acting as if they own your property. They are contacting real estate agents who are buying leads through Zillow or Realtor.com and telling them they own the property. They have all the information about your property because it is public information.
Right.
And they're listing it for sale. Sometimes they get away with it. We are working so hard on this right now. We're trying to get every citizen signed up for our Property Fraud Watch. It is free. It will alert us immediately if someone files a deed or something in your name. And then we immediately, the district attorney, we've had District Attorney Tucker in.
Yep.
You could have him on the show. He'd be fascinating.
I think we're going to try and bring him in.
The DA has been in our office. We're working hand in hand with him. We're working with local police stations in departments in all 30 cities and towns. We want everyone to sign up for this Property Fraud Watch. It is free. If you need help, we will help you do it because it does need to be done correctly for it to work. If you don't have an email, we have set up an email address at the registry where we will be alerted and then we will call you. Because not everyone has email. And
Yep.
a lot of seniors have chosen, actually a lot of people today are like they don't want to do the tech anymore. So we're trying to make it as accessible to the public as we can. But this is one of my number one things. The FBI sent out an alert, I think about 10 days ago, about this happening. I could talk about this for hours. You might have to have me back on to do this.
Oh, happily.
But the property fraud is very, very serious. And you haven't done anything wrong if it happens to you. Don't feel like you've made a mistake. These are bad actors that are doing this. And we're going to stop them. We don't have the technology to prevent it yet. We do have the technology if you signed up to alert us immediately.
Right.
We can stop it. We can put a court order on it immediately. That's where the district attorney gets involved. That's where the police need to be notified. We are starting to track these ourselves. There is literally no data on this. There are no metrics at all, surprisingly. I spoke to the head of the Realtor Association, the North Shore Realtors, yesterday. He had 3 calls yesterday alone about people,
Wow.
realtors calling in and saying someone's trying to scam these people out of their property. If you have a realtor, even if you haven't talked to them for 5 years, call them up, and get them to sign you up for this if you don't know how to do it. We are teaching realtors how to do it. We are teaching lawyers how to do it. We want people to do this. It is a free service that the government is giving you. Take advantage of it. I can't tell you how important this is.
Well, you know, and one of the things this station does, aside from having cool shows like people like you and me, is we have a sort of running slide deck of, you know, important information. I wonder if we could get your office to send us the information. We could put together a little page that
absolutely
run it regularly, listen, watch out for fraud, registry of deeds.
We will do a whole presentation that you can upload and do, because this is that important. Your home is probably the most valuable asset you have. And, you know, some people have paid their homes off. Some people, as we get older, we've had to take money out of our homes just to, you know, the price of living has gone up. We need to borrow some money from our homes. You don't want someone to steal it from you. I will tell you quickly, because I know.
Yeah, I got some photos I want to go through.
Okay, I know time is clicking, but, you know, there's a case that is in litigation right now. It was a couple in the Carolinas who owned a piece of land in Concord where they were going to retire. They were going to build their dream house. It was a wooded lot. They were going to build their dream house and in 10 years retire there. Well, they got a bill from the tax assessor in Concord saying this is your final tax bill. Now remember, tax bills come out quarterly.
Right.
So we're working with assessors right now too on this. The woman said, why am I getting a final tax bill? She had the sense to call the assessor and said, why did you send me a final tax bill? And they said, you sold your property 3 months ago. And she said, no, I didn't.
Right.
They flew to Massachusetts. The property had already been cleared of trees, and there was actually a house being built on the property.
Sounds like somebody's just given her a house.
Well, there are people now, there's a builder who is out of money, because the people that hired him don't own the property.
Right.
They are out of the money because they gave somebody a couple of $100,000 for a piece of land that they don't legitimately own and the other people didn't own. And there's a couple that wanted to build a dream house, and there's a house they don't want. And the woman said, you know, honestly, if we liked the house, we would have bought it from them and made it easy, but we don't even, that's not anything. You know, we wanted a ranch. This is like this big, huge thing. We were building a retirement home. So it's a mess. And the whole thing is tied up in litigation right now. But this story is really almost becoming a national story, just like Graceland. A lot of people may remember Graceland ended up in court because someone tried to steal the deed. And if it were not for the Presley family having the money and the resources they had, they would have lost that property. They were able to stop it in court because of their resources. In just within the last month, the woman who did it did plead guilty to it and is going to prison. But this happens. That's what I tell people.
Happening more and more.
Happen to Elvis Presley's house, it can happen to anybody.
Well, the difference is you and I aren't the Presley family.
We don't have that kind of money.
So what, you know, the resident is going to be in trouble there, and that's what I want to see stop.
And that's why the property fraud is important, because it will give you an immediate alert. This just happened right now, and you say, I didn't sell my house, so we can stop everything.
We'll plug the contact at the end of the episode. On the screen over here, I have a photo that is at the UMass Club in Boston. You and Governor Baker. Now, I'm not going to guess how tall you are, but Governor Baker is about 6'5".
Yeah.
So, I mean, you worked for a couple of governors. Clearly, this is a fun photo.
We had Governor Baker and I had a lot of fun. He actually loved this picture. This picture went viral. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world because he, like a lot of people, I'm not tall. And people always say, oh, how short are you? First of all, you never say to someone, how short are you? Say, how tall are you? How short are you? And to be frank, it gets annoying. And people would say the same thing to him all the time, how tall are you? And he hated it. It really, you know, because
I get that too sometimes.
You go through
I'm not a circus attraction.
Right, you go through your whole life. I mean, he's always gracious, as hopefully I am too. So we just thought this was a really fun picture. And so he's like a Charlie's Angels pose. That's why he has his hands like that from the Charlie's Angels movie. Do you know that pose?
Yes, I do.
And I'm there like this, and we just got a charge out of it. And so we would do almost every year after this some type of picture of us together. We didn't always do the back to back, but he would be at Christmas time, and I would have to get up on a chair and he'd still be taller than me, sort of thing. But it was a lot of fun.
What else do I have here? I'm not actually sure which.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is when I was running.
This is for when you were running for Registry of Deeds. You have one of the best campaign signs. I think I told you this. It's kind of cell shaded, which is a video game trope. The way these accent each other. But this is my favorite campaign manager ever, Prince. The dog.
The rescue dog.
The rescue devil dog.
He is a devil. He's a big challenge.
But that's one of the other things I always liked about you is you like the campaign trail.
I like
the work more than I like the campaign.
I love campaigning.
It's fun. Listen,
I'll be honest. You probably learned this. Most politicians don't.
Listen, it's fun to be in a parade. I love having lunch with people. I like hearing stories. I like, shaking hands and kissing babies. But I like doing the work. I know plenty of people.
I love the work, but campaigning is a lot of work and it's exhausting.
And there's a chance you'll lose at the end too.
There's a chance you'll lose.
That hurts. And when I worked on the Migliore race, everybody. This is going to sound stupid, but everybody we talked to thought we were going to win.
Oh, of course,
right? And that's kind of, you get sort of rose-colored glasses with it. And I sort of stepped back after that race. In fact, even when you and I met, I didn't really want to come to work for you, and I just absolutely loved. There was something you said to me. You texted me the day before. We met at the Hammersmith, which is up the street, local institution, and you said, "Keep an eye out for me when I get to the restaurant. I'm short, fat, and gay." And it was the funniest thing I've ever read in my life, and I thought, well, I'm in. What are we running for? What can I do here? But that's it. You've also got an incredible personality, and it lends to but there's also the other half, which is the dedicated numbers workforce.
I like the numbers. I like the policy. I like the work. But I genuinely really like people.
Right.
And so it can be, like on the holiday, 4th of July season, I'll do 4 parades in a day and a half. It is honestly...
I'll do a parade with you. Let's go be in a parade together.
It can be very exhausting.
We'll go to
because
Wakefield.
The Gloucester parade is 4 or 5 hours long.
That's right.
I live in Gloucester now, so that's the hometown parade. But you have to love it, I genuinely... The other politicians would laugh because they're like, God, Duff, you really...
Now, I want to show this photo. This is a Democratic...
This is Saugus.
This is a Democratic fundraiser. I know we don't get nationally political on the show, but...
Was it a fundraiser as much as it was just a gathering?
It was a
scholarship thing?
Sort of coalition breakfast, and she came to present one of our members who had worked for the state for a long time with an award. But I know you and her had known each other a long time.
We started together.
And this is what I want to highlight, which is you can get 2 incredible leaders that can work side by side, and even in cases you said earlier that you've worked for different administrations, Republicans and Democrats and this and that, but to see so many leaders, we had Paul Tucker at this breakfast, Sean Reed, the new representative from Lynn, there was Senator Brendan Crichton, who we're going to try and get on the show. Every single one of those was an article of dedication to public service. And even to hear you, I introduced you, but I had you introduce Diana. And even to hear you guys talk about transparency at the state level and what it means to the residents, to the people of Saugus, that's what I care about. That's what I want to see on this show. This one is one of my favorites because I took this one. This was taken, so you were, we don't have time to talk about it, which is too bad.
Yeah.
But you were an elector, one of the 12 Massachusetts electors.
To the Electoral College.
To the Electoral College this year. You see it on election night. You need 270 to win, but that's an actual vote that is taking place.
It's an actual real thing.
And it was a very serious thing.
It's very serious, and Massachusetts is very formal in how we do it. And to me, it's a once in a lifetime. It's not something you do.
I remember making the phone calls for you to the state committee.
It's not something you do over and over. It's an honor. And to me, honestly, this is the highest civilian honor there is to be selected as
You voted for the president of the United States, or for a candidate.
When you see they got so many electoral votes, I actually, on behalf of the citizens, was chosen to cast one of those votes. And I will never do it again in my lifetime, I'm sure. And it was really, to me, it was a very, very high honor.
You know, I took this photo. In fact, it goes into the next one we're gonna show here.
Yeah, you and I.
I took this photo, that previous one, from the Fly Gallery at the State House. I had never been there before. Never been to the gallery. I'd never been on the floor, as a matter of fact. You know, I've been on the tour, but they don't let you go up.
Right.
So
they really don't anymore either.
You pulled me up, and this was actually one of the most exciting weeks of my life. I don't know if you remember this, but this was taken on a Wednesday, I believe, at night. I had just gotten a call on Monday to find out I had been accepted to law school. And the following day, this is a Wednesday. Tuesday I had something too. Wednesday night, you and I take this photo. You text me the next morning and you say, come up to the State House for a minute. Or sorry, this was a Tuesday night, because the next day I took this photo.
Oh yeah, that was my last meeting.
Your final meeting as a governor's counselor, and I had never been in the room before.
That's a great experience.
But you pulled me in and you said, listen, I got something to give you. And I think you gave me a pen. I think it was one of the pens you would use to sign the Electoral College certificate. They give you a couple to write with, and you had gifted one to me, and which I still have, of course. I'm going to keep it forever. But I got to meet the governor that day too, and the governor I took a really nice photo. But it was one of the most eventful weeks of my life, not for the fact that I was hanging out with you, but I found out I had gotten into law school the first day of the week, and then that Friday I had finished my master's degree.
Yeah, and it's a big deal.
In between all of that, I got to meet the governor and then hang out with you at the State House. I think this is our last one, so I am gonna. We're a couple of minutes left here, but I want to give you a minute to look into the camera and plug.
Is this the camera?
I think this is your camera.
So.
I'm used to it being up higher, but they did it for your height, I think.
Yep.
Plug whatever you want to plug. We can get the information from you afterwards and put it on the screen. Phone numbers, and don't worry about that. But anything you want to say directly to the people of Saugus about how you can help them.
Well,
your office. I mean.
The Registry of Deeds can help you at salemdeeds.com. The property fraud is imperative. You can also, we're meeting with all the state representatives and state senators. We're developing some literature that we're going to co-brand with them, because they are out in the communities all the time. Their districts are a lot smaller than mine. And so they will be able to help you and partner with us to get this information out to people. It's imperative. The other thing is, make sure you have a homestead on your house. And a homestead, it's kind of like an insurance policy that the state offers you. Most people get them when they buy their houses, but sometimes people don't. A lot of times attorneys will just do it for you. But a homestead now covers, the state of Massachusetts for $35 offers you $1 million coverage.
Wow.
And if there's two people over 62 in the home or disabled, you're covered for $2 million. And what this means is there's an accident, someone slips and falls on your property, or you're sued, they cannot take your property. Now, if your property is worth over $2 million, they can try to attach part of it.
I think we're going to need to have you come back either with me or with the studio to give a little presentation.
Yeah, it's really, again, one-time fee, $35. As long as you live in that home, you're covered. So when people say the government doesn't do anything for you, the state of Massachusetts gives its citizens amazing property protection. But you need to take advantage of it. You do not need an attorney to do this. Homesteads are the only documents that we will notarize at the Registry of Deeds. We are located, even though it's called Salem Deeds, we are now located in Beverly, 100 Cummings Center, Suite 206C. If you go there in person, we will give you the document, we will help you fill it out or guide you to fill it out. We can't do it for you, and we will get it notarized so you are covered. One last thing, if you have a homestead on your property and you've put the property into a trust, you need to refile a homestead for the trust.
Eileen, we'd love to have you back to the studio one of these days. You know I adore you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That is all the time we have.
All right.
As I said at the top of the show, we have a bunch of guests scheduled. I'd like to get some more very exciting people. If there's anything that you, as the viewer, want us to see covered, any particular town department, I know budget season's coming up. We spread these episodes out, but May is when the annual town meeting warrant comes out. If there's anything that you want to see, if there's anybody that you want to see me featured, send us an email at info@saugustv.org. I'd like to thank everybody from Saugus TV in the control room for helping us do this show, and for my mother for being my mother. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. We'll see you on the next episode of Know Your Town.